Christmas was fast approaching on the island of Sodor, and all the engines were busily preparing for the special day. Percy pulled the mail train filled with letters to Santa, Gordon pulled the special Christmas express, and everyone could hardly wait for the holiday festivities to begin. Each year, on Christmas Eve, the people of Sodor gather at churches all over the island to attend midnight mass. Trevor the traction engine loves listening to the church choir sing their Christmas hymns and carols. Each year, it is his job to deliver the choir to the church in time for the midnight service. He loves seeing the smiles on the faces of the townsfolk and listening to the choir sing their beautiful music. It was the day of Christmas Eve, and Trevor was sitting in his shed at the vicarage orchard. He couldn't wait for nightfall to come, when he would be hitched to his cart and leave to pick up the choir. As he daydreamed, Edward puffed up alongside him. "Hello there, Trevor." "Trevor, are you all right?"
"Oh, yes, sorry, Edward," Trevor replied. "I was just thinking about tomorrow night. I can't wait to pick up the choir."
Edward smiled. He knew how much Trevor loved his special Christmas job. "I'm helping deliver the passengers to the church," Edward replied excitedly, "so I'll see you there." And with a cheerful peep, Edward left. Trevor smiled. "See you then," he called back. But that night, a blizzard raged across the island. The railway lines were covered in a thick blanket of snow. Luckily, the engines had snowplows to clear the line and sand to drop under their wheels to help them keep their grip. Nearly home," Edward huffed. The roads, however, didn't fare so well. They quickly froze over, making it very difficult for cars and lorries to reach their destinations. Heavy snowdrifts quickly began to build in the middle of the roads. The next morning, Edward was being steamed up for the day's work when the yard manager approached him. "Edward, I just received a call from the vicar," he began. "Unfortunately, the weather is far too bad for the choir to travel with Trevor. You'll have to take them to the church by rail instead." Edward's face fell. "Oh dear," he sighed. "Trevor is sure to be disappointed." At the end of the day, Edward collected his coaches and made his way towards the village station to collect the choir, as well as the other passengers. As he passed by the orchard, he could see Trevor in his shed. "Trevor, I'm so sorry about the choir. I wish there was something I could do to help." Trevor just sighed and glanced up at the darkening sky.
"No need, Edward. I know it's silly being upset," Trevor said sadly, "but it feels like Christmas just won't be the same this year."
Edward knew that something must be done, but he didn't know what. Edward sped into the station where Sir Topham Hatt was waiting with the choir. "I need to speak to you, sir," and Edward quickly explained about Trevor. "We must find some way to cheer him up." Sir Topham Hatt thought for a moment. You're right, Edward. We must find some way to make Trevor feel better. But how?" he pondered. Just then, Edward spotted something in the yards adjacent to the station. "I have one idea, but we'll have to work quickly if we want to make it to the church in time," said Edward, and he whispered his plan to Sir Topham Hatt. Meanwhile, Trevor sat in the orchard, feeling cold and alone. All of a sudden, there was Edward! He looked delighted. Trevor was confused. "Good news, Trevor! You'll help deliver the choir to the church after all!" Edward called gleefully. Trevor's eyes widened as he saw the coaches filled with the choir, and then the well wagon coupled up behind Edward. The cavalcade arrived at the church just in time. As the service began, Trevor closed his eyes and listened to the sweet sounds of the organ and the voices ringing out. All of a sudden, Trevor opened his eyes. "Is everything all right?" Edward asked. "Thank you, Edward," he said softly. "This is the best Christmas of all." "Thank you, Trevor. I'm glad you still got to be with the choir."
"Well, that's part of it."
Trevor smiled.
"The choir is lovely, but this Christmas wouldn't be nearly as special without a friend like you to share it with."
And as the snow began to fall lightly once again, and the two friends listened to the joyous voices, Edward couldn't help but agree.